Now I want to cover how we can do animations in Unreal. First of all, you can see I deleted my control rig, and maybe somewhere you have a thing called sequence. Well, that sign here, make sure you delete it. Probably somewhere in one of your folders if you had a control rig in there. We're going to set this up now properly. First of all, we're going to create our own sequence. We just create it and we call this dark underscore creature underscore new underscore anim. Yeah, we're just going to use this to create our animations in. Now we double click this and a new window will open up here, the sequencer. I'm going to first of all make this quite a bit longer so we have some space to work with. And now how do we get our control rig in? I would not recommend you taking the control rig and dragging it in. I did it 3 times now and each time Unreal crashed. We're going to do this absolutely manually and I think it's more logically and it will explain a few things. So first of all, we're going to take our dark creature skeleton and we drag this in here. We will have our dark creature in this sequence. And you can see it also spawned in the viewport. We can just drag it up a little bit. We don't have our controls here. To get our controls, we just need to click on the dark creature, add a track to the dark creature under control rig. And there are 2 things we can do. First of all, I want to show you the FK control rig. Let's just click on that. And what it should do is create control rig automatically. So basically you can see if I go to the animations here and open up the controls, we can see we have a control for each one. And if I now try to rotate this here, you can see we can rotate everything individually. So it automatically created a manual control rig for us. Sadly, we don't really see the control rig. I wonder what it is. If we scroll down here, display hierarchy, display spaces. Seems like we don't see them. I don't know. It doesn't matter to us, but we could select each control and now totally use FK to animate. Though I want to go back to the sequencer here. I'm going to order this a little bit better. I want to place actor a little bit over here. So go to the sequencer and let's fold this in and we can select the FK control rig and just delete it. And it's out there. Now we can click on plus and go to our control rig and asset-based control rig, so the one we made manually. And we can just hit and click this and you will see we have our animations back, our control rig back. And it should just work as I did before. So if I scale this, the finger will close, etc. And we also have now the controls in here as we had before, right? What I'm going to do with this animation window, because it's kind of like a hierarchy, it's actually a hierarchy. I'm going to take this and move it to the world outliner. This is just more logical. Okay, damn it. Go over here, please. This is just more logical for me to have it like an outliner over here. All right. And I'm just going to go up here and fold in the controls. Basically, it's like an outliner with some settings to it. I want to go over the settings really quickly. Here we can display the hierarchy. So basically the bones, display the spaces, you know, the spaces in the control rig. We don't really need this. Can hide the manipulators if you want to. We can display the axis. I'm not sure where or which. And here we can only show the selected rig controls, I guess, in relation to that. Doesn't matter for me. And here we can change the gizmo scale, yeah, so if it would be too small or something. So next I want you to go to edit and editor preferences. And a window will open here. Wait, I have it on my right screen. There we go. And I want you to look for 2 things. First of all, arc rotation. And there it says enable arc ball rotate. Let's enable this. What this does is if we click on something, let's just click here and we use the rotation E on your keyboard, you will see we have like a very transparent ball here and we can grab this and we can just freely rotate this kind of. There's also the thing in the preferences, which is called screen rotate. I already have this enabled. You can enable it as well. This is very handy. It will help us work a little bit more clear and we will have this yellow ring here. And what this does is it's just rotating it depending on your view. So when I rotate it here, it's rotating like that. If I go around here from the back and I can rotate it outwards. Yeah. So this is pretty handy to have. So let's say we messed up our ear, right? So I selected the ear here and I rotated the ear somewhere weird and I want to reset this. Now sadly there's no shortcut for that. But what we can do is we can select another control and select the control we messed up. I think it's that one, and we can see it's selected over here. And we can unfold this and you can see the roll, pitch and yaw change. So we can just hit 0 everywhere. And with that, it will be a reset. Sadly, I don't know a shortcut for that. Nothing is on the right click, so I'm not sure. But let's say we wanted to do animation, right? Let's do this with that tail. And on this distribute rotation here, there's like this little button here, and I can just hit on this little button and you can see we have keys everywhere. Now I just go a few frames further. Now I want to animate maybe those controls here. So I go back to the first frame here as well and just see where my control is. We can see it over here. I'm just going to hit plus for that. Let's hit also plus for that. I can see them over here pretty nice in a row, right? So I have keys for them. So now we have the keys, right? But we maybe want to turn auto keying. This is up here, disable auto keying. And it seems like it's currently at none. And if we just hit all, I hope it will just key it automatically for us. So we're going to now rotate this here, and it seems like we get a nice key here. This is very nice. And we can just, let's say we are moving this a bit down, we get automatically get a key here. We're moving this a little bit back, a little bit over here. Let's say this one over here. I guess we need a few more controls for the tail, but if we do this, we're going to do it later. So we have position and it's keyed. If we now play this, we should get like a nice animation basically. So how do we export this to actually get it as an asset in our browser? First of all, you can, middle mouse button sometimes does keys, really confusing to me. But we need to basically get those things here and cut it up. In order to do that, first of all, I'm going to scroll all the way up, because we can see those strokes here and we can place those perfectly over those strokes. If you don't see them, you can just right click somewhere and set end. Or right click and set start. And then you can just grab them and perfectly place them here where they should be. And if we now want to export this, now you should need to go on further, I guess. It's not very accurate. I guess I need to zoom in a little bit here. If you now want to export this, make sure you have your in and out point. Then you can right click on the dark creature itself, not directly on the control rig, but on a dark creature. Right click. And there is this thing called create a linked animation sequence. If you now hit this and we go to the dark creature where we have an animation folder, we can name this test. Okay. And here on the export, those should be default. Record in workspace doesn't matter to us. We don't want this. And we just hit export. Now, if we go to our animations folder, we will have this test here. Let's take a look at that, and we can see how our tail is nicely animating. And that way we can create poses and animations whenever we need one. Basically, all we have to do is go to the dark creature and open up our dark creature new anim, and we will be in here. So let's say I close this, it's gone, because we closed the window. But if I double click on this, we will get exactly our dark creature here with this animation. Seemingly the control rig doesn't show. I guess we have to select it. And always this stupid animation window always opens here. This is so annoying to me. Why cannot just stay where it is? But you can see we get this back. So basically we are just making one animation here, the next one here. It's a little bit like the non-linear editor in Blender, and we can just store all here and we can change them whenever we need and export them whenever we need. So but now let's delete this test again. So you can see I deleted the stuff in here. What I'm going to do now, again, set it up. I'm going to drag this in here. I'm going to add my control rig and my asset control rig. Let's go over here where it is, and I'm going to the sequencer, selecting the dark creature so I can move it a little bit up where I can see it. And what I want to do is add an animation, and that would be the cat running, because it's kind of already similar what I want to do. I want to not create a full animation, but what I want to do is focus on the jump, okay? Because when we currently hit play and we walk around and we jump, we just keep running. So we're going to use our control rig to fix our jump. How do we do this? Well, we go in here and we just simply get a pose. We don't even need a full animation. All I want is to create a nice pose. So I'm going to rotate this here, front here, and I'm going to use this finger control here, this one here, scale it up down so we can close the fingers a little bit up. Maybe you need a little bit of manual rotation there to open those fingers here up again. And just select all of them and rotate them together, something like that. Maybe grab the IK again, just a bit over here. Actually, I think the fingers should be a little bit more open. By the way, if it's snapping for you, like I said earlier, you can change up here. If snapping is on, here's for rotation snapping. Here's for movement snapping. Also, you can lower the camera speed. Yeah, for me, this is very annoying if it's too fast. So I usually work with 4 for big stuff or 1 for small stuff. I don't think I want to do the ears. I want to do the ears and the tail separately. So let's say we have our pose here, right? It's a good flying pose. All right. Now we can go over here to our dark creature, right? And we have the skeleton. Right click on the dark creature itself, and there it says bake pose asset. Bake animation from current pose. And then we can go to our dark creature, into the animation, and what do we call this? Dark creature skeleton, and we call this jump underscore pose. We hit OK, and we can take a look at our animation here. We should have a jump pose. If we now open this, we should have a so-called curve, and it's not different from our animation. It looks like a completely new window, and maybe it is, but it's really just a pose, okay? We just don't have a timeline because it's like just one position. That's all it is. And we have this pose stored. The reason I made it as a pose, now we could have saved only one frame as animation. Yeah, I can show you this really quick, I think. Yeah, it broke for me because it crashed, and don't worry about it, but I can show you. You can just like make one frame here, right? I mean, maybe because I'm on the wrong frame, I originally played it the first one, right? Yeah, that's the right one. I would just lock up this one frame here and then go to right click, create linked animation sequence, and then in animation, well, it will really quickly test again. And same stuff, okay. And now we have to test here, right? And it moves a bit. I guess we would need one frame less though. Something like that, basically. Right click, linked animation. Now we literally have one frame. And we have like this pose stored. The reason I did it with the pose asset is because it properly gives us only this one current pose. Yeah, we don't have to do janky stuff with frames here, and we have a curve which we can interpolate from base to this pose here, right? You can also turn this up to 1 and create asset animation from the current pose, and it's going to do the same thing. We can go to animation and we call this now jump pose, yeah. Hit okay. And you can see we get the same thing. I think it's a little bit easier to do it with a pose. And as far as I know, I didn't put much time into the poses here, yeah. But you can do quite a lot of stuff with those poses as well. For example, I want to show you another thing, which I should have probably mentioned earlier, but we have our poses, right? Where we said we would store, actually this is the walk, where's my poses? Yeah, our poses, right? We made one pose and we said we could store each frame a pose. What we can do to create a pose asset out of it, so basically one of those here where we have the curves, is I'm going to take the walk as an example here. We can right click this and create pose asset. And we can hit accept with it selected. And you can see we have a new pose asset here. And basically each frame is going to be a curve here, a keyframe basically, just for bones. So in theory, if we keyed a lot of poses here in the poses animation in Blender, yeah, we made a lot of poses. We could just right click it, create pose, accept, and we would have each pose as an individual curve here. And with that stuff stored, you can later do a lot of things. Like I said, I didn't use this much, don't have a good idea about it, but it's a useful thing to know. With that, we have our jumping pose as a little animation here. I think this is easier to use. I don't know how to properly use the pose assets. I tried to look into it, but there's like not enough information, not clear enough information on how to do that. So maybe it's not even possible. I don't know if it's supposed to work like that. You can see if we go to our animBP, so one step out, animBP, we're going to now work in the blueprint, the animBP, and yeah, because we want to set up the logic for the jump, right? In the animBP, we can see we have the two windows here, event graph state machine. If we go all the way out here and go in here we have our animations, right? Here's the walk. And quick side note, if you go down here to the anim preview window, you can turn up the speed. All the variables you have set, you can manually change them here. In the asset browser, you can see we can drag the pose in. So somehow it might be possible to use those poses, but I'm not so sure. Not entirely sure the poses. There's not enough information for me to figure this out. But we're just going to plug this back in here. And instead of the pose asset, we're just going to use our jump pose, which we exported from the pose asset. If we now hit compile, we get our usual stance here. And if we want to transition to the pose, jump pose, the animation, we can click on the transition here. The transition, there are rules. You can even double click on it and set up logic inside there. If you just click on it and automatic rule based player, whatever, all this weird sentence means is after this here is finished, it's going to play this here. So basically time, when the time is over. Yeah. So select it, check this, and we hit compile. As soon as this here is played, yeah, we can see this is playing. So this is basically what we want. Though we have to set the rule when he should go into the jump position. So the rule is definitely not after the time is over. Basically the rule is when we press spacebar, right? Because spacebar is our jump. So basically we press play, yeah. We walk around, we hit spacebar, and then when we hit spacebar, it should go from this here to this here. So how do we do this? Now, first of all, we have to understand in the blueprint itself, we're going to press jump, and then the capsule moves up. You have to understand this. This here is where we trigger the actual jump. Now we could, in theory, and maybe we will do this just now, we could in theory store a variable, a boolean, and register when we are actually jumping. So basically create a variable boolean on off switch and we see if we're jumping or not. But instead, we're going to, for now, do something else. We go to the unMBP, and here we go into the event graph. And we want to store if something happens. So we go into the variables, hit plus here, and we call this is in air. So we can see it's red, and this is right. We want to set this, and all this red thing is, oh, I know, complicated, red thing, a new thing. The green, we understand it's just a number, but here, the red thing is just, it's even easier than a number. A number can be any number, but a Boolean, it's just literally on or off. You can even see, we can manually check it on or off, and we want to set it. And what do we want to set it by? You can already see in the question. Is in air is not existent, but is falling. It's, yeah, you can see if you type in, I really hate this about Unreal, is falling is an actual node, but we don't see it. Sometimes we need to turn off the context sensitive here, and there we get the node I was looking for, yeah? And we can plug this in. The reason it didn't appear is because we didn't do it in the right order, because this is not going to work either, yeah? It needs a target, it needs to know what is falling, yeah? Let's do it the right way. First of all, where this is falling is stored is in the character blueprint, in the character movement. There it detects by if it's falling or not. This is the Unreal prepared stuff. So what we need to do is from our player pawn, yeah? So the player pawn is basically the whole blueprint, I think. If we drag this out here and we get movement component, there we go, down there is the movement component. We can basically say, okay, try to get player pawn, yeah, this is the blueprint, and within the blueprint we can get the movement component. So the movement component is this here. From there we can grab out is falling. Because this is the Unreal prepared stuff, we basically have to get to the blueprint and then to the character movement, and then we have to get in here to grab this out. That's how I understand it. If I'm wrong, please correct me. We can plug this in here. Now we're checking if our blueprint in the component is falling, and depending on that, it's turning on or off. Now we can go over here into the other window in our state machine, and we can go to the transition here, and we can see there's a red dot. And we can just grab this out, get, and plug this in. So whenever this is in air is switching, it will transition to this animation here. Now we can hit compile and we can test this. So we're playing, we hit jump, and we can see it transition to our jump animation. Now, why is it not stopping? That is because we have to transition back. So I'm going to grab this and transition back. And we get another transition rule here. And now we can go inside here. When should it switch back? So here we're checking if the character is in air. If it's in air, the transition will know, okay, switch. But when should it go back? It should go back if is not in air. If we now hit play, we're jumping, wee, and there we go. See this? Pretty cool, huh? And actually not that hard. We just create an animation by just right-clicking here, big pose asset, saving it somewhere, and dragging this here up. Create asset, create animation, current pose, saved it somewhere, went to our unMBP. In the event graph, we just simply asked if it's falling. Then we went to the state machine inside here, and we grabbed our jumping pose in there, and we stored this variable over here, right? And then in the transition, we are just plugging that in if it's in air or not. If it's not in air, in the other transition is not in air. And then we can just jump around and wee. Well, there's more we can do about it though. Let's hit Ctrl Shift S.